All right. Hey, good evening, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. This is your evening update on Hurricane Ian. I apologize for the late night. I had some last minute storm prep stuff to do. We're in Northeast Florida and we're getting ready to get into the suck sometime tomorrow morning. So, we're going to be talking about Hurricane Ian, its landfall, the current situation, and then we're going to go into Northeast Florida real quick. So, let's go ahead and get right to it. This was the situation earlier today when Hurricane Ian made landfall in Southwest Florida. The storm made landfall with maximum sustained winds near 150 miles per hour, making it a catastrophically powerful Category 4 hurricane. The storm intensified almost clearly up to landfall and has unleashed just devastating damage across southwest Florida. We'll get to that in a second. This does tie Ian for fifth all-time in U.S. history for the contiguous U.S. landfalls, and it is also fourth or fifth, I think, all-time in Florida's history. Interestingly enough, it actually hit the same place Charley did, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, like the harbor, the bay right there, within probably a mile of where Charley did. I mean, almost identical tracks. Ian took a different trajectory into the coast, but they wound up at almost the same point. They were within 1 millibar of each other of pressure and had the same maximum wind speeds. The only difference was Ian was a much larger storm than Charley. So, pretty impressive and unbelievable feat that Ian pulled off, and yet another devastating hurricane to the Gulf Coast in a series of them over the last couple of years. This is the current radar presentation of Ian overlaid with some satellite imagery across Florida, and the storm is still pretty powerful. The backside eye wall has now moved in to parts of the coast that got hit earlier, and most of the storm chasers and reports are that the backside winds have been even stronger than the front side winds. There's a couple reasons for that, but essentially Ian is wrapping up in this cold front ascending across northern Florida tonight, and it is enhancing some parts of Ian and changing the behavior of other parts of the storm. I want to go ahead and get to this flash flood emergency right now. This is we're recording this at about 8:45 right now, and a flash flood emergency was declared a little while ago. Is at least until 10:45 for parts of the Tampa south of the Tampa area, Tampa National Weather Service, but points just north of where Ian made landfall. This is the harbor where Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. You can see several counties under a flash flood emergency, which is far more deadly and dangerous than a flash flood warning. This is when a life-threatening situation is underway. The rainfall totals show 10 or 15 or so inches of rain have fallen in this area in the last 12 or so hours, and that is an incredible amount of rainfall and per hour. That is basically like a strong thunderstorm, like a thunderstorm. You look outside, and you're like, oh man, it's really coming down out there, but like just basically endless. So this is definitely a serious rainfall event, and the backside of Ian is still producing wind gusts well into Category 3 and 4 hurricane force. So this event is nowhere near over, even at the coast. This is the wind gust we've recorded so far, up to 140 miles an hour in Cape Coral. Just amazing to see that actually recorded by an instrument that survived that kind of wind. Really impressive stuff. So what's going on this evening with Ian? Well, the big thing is that Ian is starting to interact with a cold front to its north and is being undercut by dry air to the south. This is changing the impacts a little bit. We'll go back to the radar for a second. Look at the south side of Ian, the lightness of the rainfall moving into southern Florida, south Lake Okeechobee. You're getting light showers, and that's about it. You go to north of Ian, and you are getting this torrential, just sabotage of rain on the north end of Ian and this backside eye wall. This air coming in is ferociously strong, where the drier air is allowing the winds to mix a little more efficiently to the surface, if you will. So this is a screaming backside eye wall and a just deluge of rain coming in on the north side. And that's kind of why Ian is lopsided, because normally you'd probably, some of y'all that are watching this video are probably thinking, well, the right front quadrant's usually the worst of it, and you would normally be right. But because that undercutting of dry air, you're actually seeing the heaviest weather shift to the north of Ian. And this sort of swath of the coast, and really more like this, is going to expect a tremendous amount of rainfall and winds over the course of the evening and into tomorrow afternoon before Ian pops out offshore somewhere around that Daytona Beach area or points north or south. So it's been a very unbelievably rough day across Southwest Florida. The storm surge was just absolutely incredible. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of homes underwater at this hour across like Fort Myers, even down towards Naples. and points around. It has just been a catastrophic landfall and is likely record setting in this area. It will be the storm of record for many of these folks. In terms of the storm surge impact has been just unbelievable. And that goes along with the rainfall and the winds. It's just all been terrible. And the damage is going to be jaw dropping when we really get to see it tomorrow when the sun comes out and we kind of get a better look at what happened. So bad news overall. This is the latest from National Hurricane Center on Ian as far as the future forecast. Maximum sustained winds are 115 miles an hour. That'll probably be like about 100 or so, 110 by the evening or the 11 p.m. advisory. Movement to the north-northeast at 8 miles an hour. We can still see Ian is expected to emerge off the east coast of Florida as a strong tropical storm or Category 1 hurricane. Hurricane warnings are in effect for a portion of the coast just to be safe, but Ian should emerge at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, roughly tomorrow afternoon, and then curve up the coast past Jacksonville and make a landfall somewhere around the coast of Georgia, or more likely the coast of South Carolina. Right now, the Hurricane Center thinks that the wind shear and drier air is going to offset Ian being over warmer water, and they have a tropical storm making landfall Friday afternoon. So Ian exits tomorrow afternoon, has a day to curve up the coast, and makes a second landfall probably in South Carolina. But I want to reiterate that hurricane watches are up for this whole region of the coast, and Ian could be a Category 1 hurricane when it makes landfall. And folks there should be preparing for a hurricane just in case Ian surprises us once again. Because I already did it once. Fool me once, shame on me. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. You guys know how it goes. This is the rainfall total still to come from Ian so far, are still to fall. This was set for this afternoon, so some of this rain's already fallen. But look at out ahead of Ian. Look north of Orlando into Volusia and Flagler counties and points north. I mean, 15 to 20 more inches of rain are still set to fall on top of what's already fallen over the area. Just incredible rainfall still to come from Ian, and this is still going to be one of the worst impacts of the storm to come. The winds are going to be bad, sure. The storm surge on the coast is going to be kind of high, but the rainfall, the freshwater flooding threat from this is pretty prolific. This is also the wind gust forecast still to come from the National Digital Forecast Database. We can easily see a swath of hurricane force winds, at least in gusts, cutting right through central Florida. This is going to lead to massive tree damage and power outages. Wind gusts in the 80, 90 mile an hour range, well into Category 1 hurricane intensity, are going to be laid down as Ian tracks across. Again, the storm is weakening, but it's over pretty flat, pretty waterlogged terrain, and it's getting that little bit of boost from that upper level jet streak that's kind of carrying some of those clouds away from Ian. So don't expect this to wind down in a hurry. Storm surge forecast still to come. That threat is shifting more to the northeast Florida, southeast Georgia, and even into South Carolina areas. 4 to 6 foot of water rise is expected for the northeast Florida region, and 3 to 5 feet elsewhere. This is going to be a pretty solid hit, and now the storm surge, given Ian's new trajectory and strength, looks a little more comparable to what northeast Florida got in Irma and Matthew. So definitely a lot of storm surge still to come. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Northeast Florida specifically. Let's zoom in on the latest tonight. This is showing the latest satellite and observations for our area. And look at the cold air. It's actually pretty chilly out. I'm a little bit west of town. I'm in Clay County right here, and it is like in the low to mid 60s outside. It is downright chilly. I was cold getting the last minute storm prep done, and you can see this cold front is draped across the area, 70, 75 down here, and but all in the 60s up here. So this cold front is what Ian is starting to interact with, and this is going to help focus and increase that rainfall threat. And especially for points southward, because you've got cooler air sitting over here on the surface, and the warm air from Ian is running on top of that and just creating a massive amount of rainfall. And that's why the rainfall totals are pretty prolific for the area. So I want to show you, like, by daybreak tomorrow, we're going to have this pretty strong fetch of winds out of the north. This is going to cause a lot of that coastal surge. While we're still expecting those winds or those surge values to be that 4 to 6 foot range, the swath of winds comes all the way up down the coast from like north of Virginia, and comes all the way down. This is going to be a massive fetch of wind. And again, you have this really strong high pressure over the kind of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest. So you've got this high pressure here. You have your winds rotating down, and notice how close together these bars are. So you've got classic high here, low here. The winds want to funnel between them, and this pinch of wind is going to be screaming down the coast. This is really going to exacerbate that flooding rainfall, or that flooding surge threat at the coast, and also help to focus that rainfall threat. So it's not just Ian, it's also this cold front that's over us that's really going to be the 1-2 punch for our area in northeast Florida. This is the impact still to come. This is the Wednesday morning graphic. I don't think Jacksonville's updated this evening, so it all remains valid, though. This is all the things we've talked about. again across the area. Wind gusts, I think, outside of the I-95 corridor, anywhere to the west of I-95, is going to be in that 55, 60 mile an hour range at the top end. I don't think we're getting a whole lot worse than that, but that's still enough to bring down trees and cause power outages. And then I think to the east of I-95 around the beaches, you're going to see it a bit stronger. The European model shows this pretty well, given the wind gusts in the 50s for the most part from most of northeast Florida, points north and south, which you can see here as you get into Duval, Nassau, and St. Johns counties around that I-95 corridor. Those winds get up to near hurricane force. You're under a hurricane watch, and you can see those hurricane force winds and gusts tonight, especially. The flooding rainfall threat is still an extreme threat to our area, given the creeks and drainage systems being full, the saturated soil we already have, and the ridiculous amount of rainfall still to come. The rainfall from Ian, when it gets cranking, is going to start, and it's not going to stop for some folks. The latest trends, though, have actually shown that west of town may see a little bit less rain. We're talking like that 6 to 10 inch range. You can see here, though, it's heavily weighted on how close to the coast you are, or further south and east you are. You're getting more in that 10 to 15 inch range. And if you're in Flagler County or Volusia County, you're talking, 15, 20, 25 inches of rain are very likely to fall. And this is all going to fall in a fairly short amount of time. This is going to be just a massive flooding situation. And I hope people understand the gravity of what is coming. 20 more inches of rain between now and probably sometime on Friday early morning. I mean, you're talking about 20 inches of rain in 24 hours or less. That is just a catastrophic amount of rain. That is going to lead to massive flooding, some of the worst flooding this place has seen in a very, very long time. So definitely hope the residents down there are understanding the situation. And then even up here in Jacksonville, this is going to challenge some of our 2 and 3 day rainfall records, at least in some spots, as it moves through. So the rainfall threat cannot be overstated. There's a lot of creeks and rivers and streams are going to become just whitewater rafting adventures for some folks. This is going to be bad. So the flooding rainfall threat remains the biggest issue for our area, despite the fact that Ian will produce some strong winds and whatnot. And finally, tornado threat is, not nothing. It's not like as high as it was to our south. Again, I think that Palm Coast and areas south and eastward, you look at towards Orlando, again, Flagler, Volusia counties under the most threat for tornadoes. I think that threat is mostly later this morning through like the late afternoon on Thursday, and then that threat will be ending. So you can see that coming. The overall timing of this, again, the rainfall is going to slowly pick up tonight. I don't think it'll get that bad till tomorrow morning, but we go into 12Z on Thursday. This is simulated radar. You can see that strong onshore flow still happening, and the stronger bands from Ian starting to more approach our area. And then this little part of Ian, this is where the worst weather is that works up the coast later in the morning, and then the early afternoon. You can see this weather really starts to hammer the coast. It's probably underdoing the total coverage here, but just show you where Ian will be by it later in the afternoon, and then we get a sunset. We're still getting hammered pretty good, but then as Ian moves off, that dry air rushes in behind the storm, and as Thursday night and Friday morning goes on, the rainfall threat will quickly end, although the winds will remain gusty probably through much of Friday before we get, a break from that into Saturday. So that's kind of your rough timing. Again, tomorrow's going to be pretty rough throughout the day, but again, middle of the day through the early evening on Thursday is probably the worst, the peak of the bad weather, and then the rainfall is going to shut off into Friday morning, and then the wind shut off Friday night most likely. So that's kind of what I got for you guys across Northeast Florida, and for Ian overall, this is just really bad storm. Again, I'm in Northeast Florida, so if we lose power, then you probably won't hear from me again for a little while. But if we've got power, I will do a morning update and see how things are tracking. But I don't anticipate this forecast to change. It looks pretty solid to me. So that's got for you guys this morning. We'll have more updates on the page and everywhere else. Just please stay safe. Please respect the tremendous threat this still is to our area, no matter where you are in Florida, and stay safe. And we will see you soon. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.